appreciate you taking the time, especially after I forgot yesterday.
Well, hell, I forgot too. So don't. I didn't think about it till I always when I come home, I have a few beers and I start remembering. That's when I have I'm the most brilliant, and I start remembering stuff I forgot.
That's funny.
And so I'm sitting there going, God dang, man, I hope Burl wasn't trying to get. I said, no, he never even sent me one, so I
Uh,
didn't feel too bad. So we
believe it
both
or not,
forgot.
believe it or not, you know what I'm doing? I'm building a chicken coop.
I have. You should see the one my guy built, and I got rid of my chickens finally, but my kids wouldn't keep the pen clean, so I just said the heck with it. I'd rather buy the eggs.
You know, it's like, so this is the third time with chickens, and every time I think neighbor dogs get them, and so they find a way in that chicken pen no matter what, and end up killing all
Well,
the chickens.
have you ordered one of those automatic doors that open in the morning and close in the evening? Oh
No,
no, they're chicken savers. It'll open at daylight, and then they'll go back in the roost, and it closes at dark.
that's funny. I have to send you pictures of what I'm building because what we did was we basically had a bunch of wood laying around. I said, I'm gonna build this. And then we actually had an old window laying around. So we put this old window in there. But anyway, we'll see how it goes. I'm trying to make it critter proof where it doesn't, no dogs can get in it. We'll see what
Well,
happens.
the deal is, because you let them out in the yard, don't you?
Well, that's in this case, my plan is to like give them, space. But because of dogs, I'm afraid, to give them too much space. So I'm going to put like hog panels and chicken wire around,
Oh yeah, okay,
give them
yeah,
some room to mess around. But anyway, I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know. I drive by all the time because I live out in the country. I drive by all the time and I see people like chickens just on the side of the road running around.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know how they keep those things alive.
Mm-mm. No, mine. I mean, I trained my dogs to leave them alone. I mean, but they had pens to get it. They had big paddocks they could roam around in. Well, them white ones started getting where they fly over a little bit. Well, they learned. I mean, they seen some of their buddies get it. I mean, these dogs wouldn't go in there after them, but if they came on their side of the fence, they got them.
Yeah. I don't
But
know.
they wouldn't. They
Like
knew not to go in there.
dogs are like I have two I have like a red healer, and basically they're cow dogs. And what they don't know anything,
Yeah,
chase things. They love to chase things. So they'll chase cows, they don't really want to kill it, but they want to chase it. So,
yeah, yeah.
well, Rooster, I appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast. Man, I want to get the most obvious thing out of the way first. So
All right.
you are Matthew McConaughey's brother. You get
That's
tired
right.
of that? Do you get tired of people asking you about that?
Not really. I mean, I'm proud of him. I'd say it more of it's how they come up with stuff that. Oh yeah, I saw your. Like they. Well, man, I saw your brother over there. And he was leading this motorcycle race, and I'm like, he was. I mean, I just go along with people. They say they saw him. We had a contractor in San Angelo said he was building this. The rumor was out he was building this. My brother and I own this ranch together. The rumor got out that he was telling people that he was building this giant mansion out there on the LP ranch. Well, people were, they're calling me, oh, God dang, man, Matthew's building a giant. I said, where? Oh, out there on the ranch. I said, I got to tell you, man, I've been out there. I ain't seen the damn thing. I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And so, oh, no, no, oh, no, this guy, I know, man. He said he's building. I said, well, it ain't on. I don't know where it is. You know what I mean? Because I hadn't seen it. Just people just come up and so I just go along with it.
Yeah,
Whatever like Matthew McConaughey sightings, this and that. I'm got, because he's gotten some, he's pretty big. I mean, he's out there.
yeah, for sure.
But I'm proud of him. So hey, it's not his fault.
It doesn't bother you. So that's good.
Mm-mm.
I know
No.
when I first really read about you was well, first of all, my son, his grandpa lives in Midland, and I think you might have hung out with him before, but he watched your show. What is it? West Texas Investors Club. He watched that, And he was telling me about it. And that was really the first time that I got exposed to you, was actually through my son. And my son's kind of like an entrepreneur guy. He really, he really wants to try to, do well in business. He owns a roofing company. And then,
Yeah. They're praying for hail all the time.
yeah, exactly.
I
And
tell you, man, hail's going to hail. Oh, gosh.
right. And then of course my aunt, through y'all going to church together. I have to tell on my aunt, she's gonna hate that I told you this, but this was probably 5, maybe more years ago. I don't know how many years ago it was, but I guess you had brought your brother to church.
Yeah.
And most people, when I tell this story, they don't realize how big Valley View Baptist Church is, but it's like a one-room church. It's not much there. And so
No.
you had brought your brother to church, which I thought was hilarious. And, I thought it was great. And my aunt, who's, a very faithful woman,
Yeah.
she took pictures of your brother and you and sent them to me during church. And, I'm not saying during the message, I don't know exactly when it was, but the
Yeah.
point
Could
is
have been.
she was so excited that y'all were both there. That's how I
Well,
got.
Gil used to go down there a little bit.
Yeah.
The guy that was on the show, but then he quit going or whatever. But he oh, well, I like it down there. I mean, you never know. The thing about that church, is that hell, you don't know when somebody's not there. You don't know whether they're on vacation or they died.
Oh, that's true. Yes.
Because I mean, there's a lot of people been, they're older people, and I mean, I'm 68. I'm the youngest one in there, except when I bring my kid. But I mean, just like God, I don't want to ask, where's old so and so, you know.
Robert, who used to be the pastor there.
Oh yeah, I knew
Oh,
Robert for
yeah.
years.
Robert, it's funny because, in fact, I need to call that guy because I don't know why, but ever since I've been going visiting that church, because my aunts lived in Midland most of my life, and so as my grandparents, who obviously passed away now, but so I've been going to Midland for my entire life, and I would go to their church, and whatever reason, Robert always, like, he just made me feel so welcome. He was always checking on me. I mean, no matter what the circumstances was going on, Robert was always, calling me, checking on me, supporting me, and I'm like, I've always been very thankful for that. So
He's a Robert. I've known Robert. The guy that when he and I moved out here together, Skipper had we came over and took this office over back in '77. Well, later on, he got remarried, and Robert that's how I met him. He did perform the ceremony. That's like 1980 something. But I mean, he was I don't know whether he was whatever, may have been a self-proclaimed minister. I don't know, or I don't, I mean, I don't know. I think later on he went to school for it, but he, that's when I met him way back then. He was kind of related to him or close friends, family to the Reynolds.
it's funny because one of my stories about Robert, and this is, I was definitely a young adult. I might have been a teenager. I don't remember, but I'll never forget. We went to church there, and we were coming out, and we're standing on the front porch of that church, and Robert takes a big old, I want to say like chewing tobacco or dip, and takes this big old thing and sticks it in his mouth right on the front porch of the church, right after he preached, right after, and believe it or not, I think some people that would turn them off, or whatever, they would be critical of that, but that made such an impact on me.
Oh yeah.
I felt like this guy is real. This guy is not putting on a show. He's just being himself. And I loved it because he didn't hide it. He didn't, he was being honest and real. And I think that if I look back on, my relationship with him, I think that really summarizes it, that he just was always real honest, real, a real person. He wasn't, holier than thou and all that.
No, he would say, because he was around her at one time,
Yeah.
and he'd been in the oil field for a long time. Then he kind of shut it down and all that. And And he knew of me a lot. And he'd go, I remember one day, because he's curious. They come, hey, Rooster, can I ask you something? I know you drink. I don't have anything wrong with that. Just don't have anything wrong with that, Rooster. I don't have anything. But I don't not think, boy, I don't have anything wrong with that. Boy, there's about hell the Baptists go, they sneak around by that stuff. But I don't have thing. It's just want you to know that. And I said, good, because I do. And he goes, well, I know you do, but you don't like black out and pass out and stuff. Yes, no, Robert. I don't. Oh, then you're fine. You're fine.
That's funny. How long have you lived in Midland, Rooster?
1977. So I guess that's 45. Would that be 45 years? About something like that. 45, 46 years.
Do you remember the old? I can't think of the movie, but there was an old movie that had Jeff Bridges in it, and it was really about Odessa. It wasn't necessarily about Midland, but in the movie, Jeff Bridges calls Odessa, Midland, the armpit of Texas. Do you remember that movie?
Oh, that was is that where he was a ranger?
I think so. It's been a
Yeah,
long
high. It's high. That's the one old Ty Sheridan's movie, High. Yeah, he was the Texas Ranger, and it was all, and they did some, I'm pretty sure it's about 8 years old or something, I think.
Midland has changed so much. I mean, if you lived there in the 70s, then you remember like the big bust in Midland, like in the 80s. And, of course, again, I was going there as a kid. I graduated high school in 90. So, I was going there to visit my grandparents, which my grandfather was in the oil field. He was in oil and gas, and my uncle was. But Midland has just changed so much. It's like,
oh,
gosh.
It ain't even close to the same. And and the thought process is different, To me, the romance has gone out of it. I mean, everybody wants to be worth 100 million. And I'm like, well, God dang, what's wrong with being worth $1 million? But it's all these, it's so much more about the money than it is about discovering oil. And, like I say, the romance is back in the 80s, your handshake was better, but you had crooks, but you kind of knew who they were. Right. So whenever you got screwed by him, you're like, goddamn old Bob, Bob got to me tonight. Oh God, he did. Oh God, he got me last year too. You know what I mean? You just kind of knew who they were, and people help people, and really more than it was just it was a lot. I had a lot of help. Whenever I
How do you think that like you survived through all that, where you like, because you hear the stories, like, for example, I told you my grandfather was in the oil field, my uncles, and really my whole family, male wise, was in the oil field. And yet they never encouraged me, not one time, to ever be in the oil field. With me growing up in West Texas, you would think that I would have, and I still live in an oil field area. I mean, the town that I live in is still pretty predominantly oil field, but it's in Oklahoma. And yet not one of my family members ever encouraged me to be in the oil field. And so I never really even thought about it. I thought about it maybe sometimes when I was thinking about money, but I'm curious, how do you think that you survived all that up and down and all that stuff that happens in the oil field?
It was like, it was just that everybody went through it, so it wasn't like you weren't alone, okay, I went over and I went broke by myself. I mean, I went chapter 7 back in 80 something because I'd owed the First National Bank, was double loaning everything, and I was selling people in that bank, and they loaned me the money to sell them and guaranteed them. Well, then, then they ran out of money and said, oh, well, don't worry about paying us back. I'm like, well, yeah, but I need, what about the rest of my line of credit? Oh, we're not, well, got to give it to me. These guys owe me 400. I only owe you 220. And they're like, oh no, we don't want to do that. Well, then they ran out of money. FDIC takes over. So they're like, well, we're not going to forgive you. I said, well, the bank did, because they were the ones that guaranteed it. So it goes. Finally, I ended up going 7. I didn't know any. I paid off all my vendors. I didn't know anybody nothing. Right. But it was, except for the FDIC, which they didn't realize it until they went to court, and they're going, and they're the only one stood up. But the people, I mean, I even had my competition. Even my competition didn't want me to go out of business, and they helped me. They said, "You're too much fun." I mean, and then I had so many other people that said, "Hey man, don't worry about it." I had an old man. First of all, I was like 20, around 30 years old when, and I'm feeling sorry for myself. Goddamn, going broke. John Woods owed me all this money. He didn't pay me. Rick Pearson owed me all this money. He didn't pay me. And there's my old man named Dero Underwood, and he takes me. He says, he hears me moaning. We always had a drink 5 o'clock at his office or something. He's pretty well off. And he said, come here. He called me like at 3. Hey, I need get your butt down here. And I said, okay, fix yourself a drink. Oh, man, I'll start early any day. So he's like, now sit down. He said, let me tell you something. How old are you? And I said, I'm fixed on being 30. He said, I'm 29, whatever. He said, I ought to whip your ass. And I said, why? Because you're stuck listening to you whining and moaning and carrying on about these guys that owe you money doing this. How old is John Woods? I said, I don't know, about 65. How old is that other guy? About 60. What are you talking about, boy? They may not have time to make it back. You can make it back. What that? Instead of whining and carrying on, you ought to just get back to work. And he said, come here. And he gave me an office. He said, I want to see you here every day. How much money you need to make a day to survive? I said, well, about $250. That'd kind of make me say, well, get in here and make that money every day. And he'd check on me every day. You make that $250 yet? Yeah, I made it. Well, stay in there and make another one. I had that kind of guidance and help from people that just reached to help me. And everybody. Here, they come do this. I had people knew I didn't have any money. They go give me $50,000 to go find them stuff. Frank Pinnell. Just one after another. Clayton Williams helped me. And then in the end, whenever another guy named Bob Harrell, he just took me and he just wanted me around. And and I worked, and you had a lot of help. I had a lot of help. And if it was there, if you wanted to take it, people helped each other.
Wow. It's very unique. I think when you think about business world today, you don't think about people helping like competitors. You mentioned competitors.
Yeah.
And I think that it's like, I know it happens, like there's some kind of bond in there, but you just don't hear about it like
no.
anymore. Well, do you attribute, like some people, like I talk to my son a lot and he's, when you're in your 20s and you're really hustling and he's in a different place than I am, but I hear a lot about, talking about hustling. I hear a lot about, do you think like hustling, you think luck, you think good luck help? What's your thoughts on like really what helped you the most as a businessman?
Well, it's a new game out there now. Everybody puts, they start this, these deals and go out and they start getting rounds, money, they'll get people to invest in it and stuff like that. And, that having those kind of connections, I never did have them. I had to be real money, for stuff, instead of valuations of what, companies never made a penny is worth 50 million on some valuation. Like I've had it explained.
Like a venture, venture capital, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Oh God, I'll tell you a funny story about the last phone call I had with one of them. And so we got to see a bunch of those on the TV show. But we'd always go, well, how are you worth anything? How much money have you made? Well, nothing. Well, what make you worth 20 million? Well, that's the way it is. I said, well, we're debt free. I'm like, when we had 5 million invested, I'm like, well, where is it? But today, you gotta have, you're gonna move. You're gonna move slower, being really honest sometimes, but you're gonna move steadier. And if he's just honest with people and upfront and transparent, people will. I think, and a little luck helps, but I think, the door's going to be open for you, if you're not just coming up with a deal like here and there, and you come up with, come up with legit things, to do all your, be sure you do your research on them. Don't just come up. Some people just come up with ideas and go, hey man, I got this great idea. Well, hey man, they already got 10 of those, or how is that going to apply? And now I think with people are willing, if he gets in the right with the right people that know how to bring in money, with actually no risk to the inventor or that's the way it's done today. And I've never been involved. I mean, I've invested in some, but I've never been on that end of it. I've always if I partnered, I partnered. If another guy, if I saw a stack of pipe I wanted to buy, I didn't want it, and I didn't have the money, I went and got somebody to buy it, and they got 60% of the profit. I got 40% of the profit, or I did. I mean, it was ways that they had faith in me doing that, because that's what I did. So so they would say, well, you carry the ball. But today, it's there's still people out there that want to help people and if, for instance, if your son stands out as an upstanding guy, honest guy, got the demeanor, just really, people just feel relaxed around him, and they feel, that he's not, that he's very honest. He's got he's going to do all right, because there ain't as many of them out there like that. You always think about, I mean, they play this great game, talk this great game, and then it's like, if the deal goes, blows up, and they're like, oh, don't worry, I'll find us another one. I'm like, well, no, I don't want another one. But I mean, people are willing to take chances with honest people still.
What decade, like you're in your 60s. I'm curious, what in your 40s, your 30s, your 20s, or your 50s, what decade do you think you were the most successful?
50s.
It's funny because I told my son that, because I'd read it somewhere that you have the most success and earning
50s.
power in your 50s.
Yep, and I have told that to these young guys, and they're going, I said, man, you talking to the wrong guy. I said, I was still making mistakes. I said, I quit making too many mistakes when I was 50. I could make money when I was in my 30s, 40s, 20s, but I said I didn't have, I made mistakes, or didn't hang on, or spin it, or whatever. I could always make it, just couldn't hang on to it. And I mean, it was a level of maturity comes where you're like, okay, man, I think I got this figured out. Yeah. God dang, it took me a long time. And that's why I say about these young people today, they're hustlers, but they have a whole different way of doing it. It's like, I deal with a bunch of guys in their 30s and stuff, but they're like, I have old friends in the business, and they're not worried about stepping on their toes. Well, I still am. And I'll say, man, I can't do that. I said, man, that's his dad. I knew his dad, and I always worked together with my competitors to work together. There was always enough to do it. Well, it's dog eat dog now, and so I realized that, but I just said, man, I got to get out of the way. I said, I don't understand. I said, I just can't adjust to doing business the way business is done now. And it's like, I'm coming. Oh, who cares? Man, I want to get. I said, no, that's been that guy's account for 20 years. I'm not going to go muddy up the water. I'm not going to try to steal another man's account that I've known as his, and we work together with it. And it's like, and now it's like I say, it's all free deal. Hey, man, that's just the way it goes. That's competition, man. We're going to go get it. And I had to kind of get out of the way, because I just didn't have it in me to do it. And if you're not, if you don't do it that way, you're going to get run over. Yeah. But lucky for me, I had my run, and I got to do it the old way, and I still do it, but I just, I don't have to do it as hard. But yes, 50, you're right, fit, man. Some ways, I don't know, man. 50's like, and hell, everybody asks me that. Boy, you just, no, man. I mean, because I'm on my third wife, and somebody said,
me too.
Yeah, and I've been with her 20-something years, and people will go, well, she's a lot younger than me and everything. They go, well, I mean, people will say, well, you think she married you for your money? I said, I didn't have that much when I married her. What the heck? I said, I had some, and I said, made nearly most of my money with being married to her, and I remember when we were talking to one of Butch's lawyers one time, and she said, well, you want to put this in an LLC of your own, don't you? And I said, I ain't putting no LLC in my own, just put it there, and said, well, you mean you're not going to try to keep your wife from aren't you worried about if you get, I said, man, let me tell you something. My ain't woman been with me over 10 years deserves half of whatever I got. I ain't worried about it. I said, you know, I mean, she deserves half. Well, okay, and you some kind of gunslinger. I said, man, I mean, if I'm going in there worried about whether my wife gets half, I'm not gonna, you know. I said, I don't work. This ain't gonna work anyway.
I tell you what, it gives me a lot of hope because, you know, I just turned 51 and, you know, I feel like that this is the best time in my life for, you know, being productive and I think you said it best whenever you kind of, you know, I've made the mistakes in the past. Now I'm like, okay, I've learned from those mistakes. And I think
Yeah,
some of it, it's like I see this and the younger, you know, my kids, and I see it in other kids. It's like they want everything now. And I think I was probably like that too. Like I want it now. I want this new. I got stuck on like new trucks. Oh, I got to have a new truck. And, you know, and now I start to see that those things like, you know, you can have all the new trucks in the world, but
yeah.
they're not bringing you happiness. They're not bringing you success, you know, and I think that it gives me a lot of hope to hear you say, man, the 50s is the way to go. So,
And I mean, I did good in my 20s, and you know, but I mean, I was, you know, when I went bankrupt, and I was probably close on paper a millionaire, and I mean, it was overnight. I was nothing,
yeah,
and then I had worked in the pipe yards when I was a kid, you know, and now I'd gotten into sales, and of course, you know, it was in the '80s, and had a gold necklace with a rooster on it and a diamond in his eye, you know, and
yeah,
starched Levi's, weighed about 160 pounds, you know, had this goddamn bleached blonde hair, you know, the whole deal, had me a diamond ring and all that stuff, ostrich skin boots and the whole 9 yards, and boom, all of a sudden when I go broke, I'm like, I sat down and I forget, I went out somewhere and I thought, and I looked at myself, you know, I had a new car and all that, and I looked at myself and I said, you know, you forgot who you were. Man,
yeah,
you used to be, you started out as a laborer. I said, when you moved to Midland, I said, the reason that they liked you so much is you knew how to do things with pipe that nobody out here ever knew how to do. They said you knew pipe better than anybody because you'd worked with it with your hands for so long. He said, and now look at you, forgot who you are. I said, you're look at this dime. So I packed all my ostrich skin boots up, all my nice stuff, put it in a box and shipped it to my middle brother Pat because he liked to dress nice. I said, "You get it? It's all here's some boots." He said, "No, you're kidding me." I said, "Everything." I said, "No." Went and bought me some Red Wings and went back to work in the field.
mm,
And I still remember, and that's 30. So it'll be close to 30 years ago, or 28, 29, and I still wear Red Wing boots. You can go down to Red Wing office, and they got a record when I first started wearing them. And I've always said, don't forget where you came from. And
mm,
so I said, I'm going to start all over. And of course, I had help. I mean, people said, "Oh God, you're ready to do what?" And we started. Me and another guy, Skipper, started in a pipe yard. Again, we borrowed the money from his daddy-in-law and bought this pipe yard, and we started from scratch again. He didn't. He had some money, but he would finance the deal to give me part of it. So it all, you know, there's just ways to you know, like I say, don't. It ain't worth it if you're going to forget who you are. You know, I mean, it
I think that's a great point.
it's just not to me.
So
That's
what's
more valuable than the money.
yeah, for sure. What's the like now that you're in like your 60s, we're talking about the 50s, in the 60s, what's kind of your focus now? Like what do you think?
I don't want to. I'll tell you exactly what it is. Of course, I got, you know, I ain't your normal guy, man. I got a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old, so that's really concerning. I mean, I'm trying to be an influence on them, you know, and being that many generations away from them, I feel sorry for them sometimes. You know, I'm like, what? You know, I mean, you're gonna do what? You know, and I mean, then his buddies all come over the house and they got their caps on backwards, and not on my property. You turn them around over here, or listen, boy, let me help you out now. If you start saying yes sir, no sir, I said I don't have to have, but you start, doors will start opening for you. If you start, you know, I'm always schooling them. So, and they're okay, you know, they're all right. But I mean, I know it's a pain in the ass to have a dad that's old enough to be your granddad, and I still have that old school mentality. You know, I mean, I'm tolerable of a lot of things, but I still have the old school mentality. But that's very important to me to get them raised, and And then the other thing is my bottom line. I don't want my bottom line to go down. People say, "Are you?" I mean, I've done well, but and I'm not concerned about going out here and making a ton more. I've got my. I just don't. That's what happened. I mean, if you want to call me whatever the word is, wealthy or something, I mean, I'm not no whatever. I'm not in the top, anywhere up there. But it's when people say, what's your, I say, I don't know, man. I can't, I don't want to see my bottom. I know how much I got, and I don't want to go below that. So I'm still working because I don't want my bottom line to go down. And I don't know why. I mean, I gave most of my stuff away to my kids during whenever the election winter turned around. I figured the inheritance stuff was going to go down. But then I built it back up. But I actually don't do really good with a lot of money. I'll take too many chances. Still, believe somebody, take a chance somebody's going to pay and then they don't or stuff like that, But I mean, I made a lot of money taking chances that somebody, when other people wouldn't, and I did get it, but I still got a problem with it. If I got access to a lot of it, I kind of got to pinch it back and makes me, it makes me work to make better decisions. I can still make them bad ones.
So last time I saw you in Midland, or the first time I met you in Midland, you talked about that. I mean, you're still in the pipe business, right? You still have that company. Yeah. What other stuff are you do you focus on investment wise? I'm curious about that. Is it really just that business, or are you really involved in other investments?
I've been in other ones, and I've probably been better off save a few. But I'm always if I'd have just done it, stayed in the pipe business and used all my resources in the pipe business, I would have done better because that's where always not been my go-to place. But yes, I have. We've most of the money it may be different than the pipe business, but it's oil field related, like the water business, and then we bought a ranch just to strictly utilize to utilize the resources. I mean, when they were drilling wells, we got paid for locations. We didn't get any minerals. We just gambled on that they were going to put, we could get wind turbines on it. I mean, and so yes, we did that. And the only bad thing about it is I bought it with my kids' trust. Well, I don't get none of it, but. But I mean, we drill disposal well. I mean, it's all coming in the same pot, So, and like I say, my wife's young, my kids are young. I'm always when they want something, I say, listen, I know we got enough money to make it till I die. You go ahead and you want because you're just spending your own money. I said, we're gonna have plenty. I'll make sure we got plenty till I die. So anything you're spending your own doggone money. So that slows them down a little bit. But most of the stuff, and I mean, I've got some stuff I got in some cyber security stuff. We thought we're just gonna, oh my God, take off, and it's still going, but yeah, I've always had to go back to the old home front. I wanted to diversify something terrible, and I've done it on land. I've done all right on land and stuff, and been pretty lucrative on land purchases and things, but getting into one of them they're gonna super deals are just gonna like a Microsoft or some deal. I mean, man, they even I don't tell how many we looked at during the show. Not even what was on the show, but how many people would show up, would send us, and it got we were just it was just mind boggling trying to keep up with stuff. We had very little help that we were supposed to have to research these things. So, a lot of times the great thing about it is that if the contract said that after whatever we said on the show, because it was always in the moment, and it was, with a little bit of emotion, and we're forcing them, either person could sit down afterwards and change the deal. So they weren't tied down to it, Well, I push them so hard.
It's lots of people, I'm sure it makes sense that lots of people would come to you and say, hey, will you invest in this? Will you invest in that? What do you think, what for you, at this moment in your life, what what do you look for in an investment? If somebody came to you and what's your like 2 or 3 things that you're like, it's got to be this? Is it like gut feeling? Is it what makes you like something like an investment?
The right, like, uh, I like not doing them anymore.
Yeah.
What it,
Well,
you
is
know,
that
I mean,
because there's been too many bad ones?
yeah, they just go on and on. It's like I told a guy the other day, he said, "Hey man, would you look at this deal with me?" And I said, "If I get another K1, I'm going to kill myself. I mean, because it just, you got to wait on them K1s. They never. I mean, you can't get your income tax done forever, and and they never kill them. And these K1s, and it's those typical deals that you get in that go, round one. It's always kills me. So, well, good God, we're so excited that we're gonna have another round. And I said, well, that means you need more money. Yes, isn't that exciting? I said, no, why that ain't exciting at all. Not if you need more money. That sounds stupid to me, but he said, well, that means we've gotten this far and now we're ready to go farther. And I'm like, no, that don't ever sound good. Well, I was gonna tell you, there was a guy, we got on a Zoom call with a guy, and they were in California, and I'm not going to get into details of what it was about, but I mean, he's sitting there and he said, well, we're trying to we got another round for, we're trying to make for $4 million. We're going to, gather up $4 million round. And, I said, well, let me ask you this, just how far do you think this $4 million round is going to take you? So give me a projection on that. Where is that going to take us? Where is that $4 million round going to take us? And he said, he started going on as well, you're going to be at this, and then with that, after that, we're going to do this and that. And I said, you know what? Wrong answer. He said, really, sir? What do you mean wrong answer? I said, no, the answer is this $4 million round will take us to the next damn round. That's what your answer ought to be. He goes, oh, well, I said, there's an easy answer. Said, it'll take us to the next round, sir. And I said, exactly. What would your next round be? He said, 12 million. I said, why don't you just answer it that way? And I was joking with him, but basically that's where they know that this round, the next round already takes you to the next round. And it just keeps, so people like me were like, I don't want to do no more. So you get watered down, but you still have a piece and you still get a K1, and these things stay in operation forever. And it's the new way of doing business, but that's what it is. I got cookie companies, coffee companies, drone companies. I don't even space it. I don't know what the heck I got.
Wow.
So it's
like so in those investments, there's really not much involved in it, really, huh? It's just you see do you get like quarterly dividends and stuff like
no,
that?
I hadn't had any of those.
One at the end of the year.
I have one, but it's all-fair related, and it's a close friend of mine, and they're giving us, paying us back as they go. But no, and all them other ones that all this evaluated stuff that goes on the way, and it's just the way they do business now. And like I say, they go out, they come up with an idea, they put it together, and they claim that their investment is their R&D, and now they've got this product. And y'all went on the bandwagon. Come on, we're going to give you preferred shares the first round, and then we're going to give it. And that, before you know it, it's like Dish TV or Suddenlink. If you sign up with Suddenlink, and I've been a customer with them for 25 years, you get a better deal than I got. Yeah. And I'm like, what the, because you're a new customer. So that's what happens on. Yeah, it's all it's bull crap. I'm like, so it goes on. That's the same way it goes with them deals. If they got to this, we're going to give you a heck of a deal on this round. Well, you get watered down. I mean, and there's millions of businesses out there that get launched that way, and I think they're successful. But I have yet to get anything out of one, and I got lots of them. Wow. But that's why if a K1's involved, I ain't in.
Yeah. I know I've had a couple of investors in business stuff. I have an investor right now, and again, I think it's actually somebody and my goal with those investors has always been they get paid first. So yeah. No matter what, every 3 months, I'm even if I didn't have it, meaning that I wasn't getting paid much, I'd make sure they got paid just because I felt like if they, trusted me and they wanted to be involved, then I, paid them first. So I don't
Yeah.
know. No, I see the different philosophies, but and it doesn't mean they always got a bunch of money, but they might got
No, they spend it,
definitely got
but
something.
and I
Yeah,
always like their big claim to fame though is we got no debt.
yeah,
Well, we don't have any debt. Well, what do you mean? You rounded up $20 million. You got no debt? Somebody gave it to you. Well, yeah, but we don't have any debt. In other words,
yeah.
if
But they don't look at that as like, oh, we
we
have.
don't have to pay it back.
Yeah, yeah. Which is, yeah, it's scary.
Yeah.
That much money.
Indeed.
It's really paper millions. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's like, an accountant can almost make financials say whatever they want it to say.
Yeah.
Especially when you're doing with projections.
In projections. And I've had it explained to me, I don't know how many times on how they come up with those valuations of those companies being worked at. And I'm like, I mean, I understand it for like 5 seconds. And
Yeah.
some reason I just can't, I'm locked down. I can't figure it out. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. So back on your kids, I'm curious how you, I feel like that, especially in this generation, it seems like, and whether we're talking about my kids or just kids you see, there's a lot of kind of like I call it me, and
Yeah,
how do you keep your kids from being spoiled rotten?
they are.
Yeah, they
I
are
didn't do a
very
very
well.
good job. Oh no, man, I'm telling you. I mean, I think Adam Sandler said it best. He said, I wish I wished I could have raised my kids the way I was raised. He said, but I got too much money. And I, I mean, my parents were all right. I mean, they were lower middle class, whatever. We never hurt for nothing. But I mean, it was still, you didn't, if you got one BB gun, and if you left it out there outside, and it rained on or whatever, you had to fix that BB gun, or you got one of this, or I mean, you learn to be frugal, and you just, we're now, I'm like, hell, my friends give my kids stuff, my other ones I give, I mean, it's like, you want better for them, but
Right.
so before you know it, it's gotten away from you,
Yeah.
and I've done things like send, just to, the main thing I got to be sure that I want to instill into my children is humility, and you can't buy that, so you got to do it. You got to trick them. Like I had Miller shine shoes at the barbershop for a couple of years, and then I like, do you have, or can I get you this? This guy said, man, he needs a better. If he had a better horse, he could be a better healer. And and I'm like, yeah, I mean, I can, and I'm like, can I afford the horse? You bet I can afford the horse, but I can't afford the humility that I can't buy the humility that'll give him to train his own to move up slow, and it's good. And so I have good children. Are they spoiled? You bet. Hell, I call him daddy's money. Yeah, I'm not going to say that they're not. No, so I wasn't successful there. But my main thing is that I want my children to grow up with a conscience and character, and 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 I'm happy. I mean, I just want them to be good people. Somebody wants to call them little rich kills boy, I don't care. But if they're long, I just want them to grow up, be good people. And that's all. And nowadays, that's all you can ask. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I'm successful.
Yeah, I agree. So a little bit about the West Texas Investor Club, and you've actually been in a few things, like a few. Didn't you say you've been in a couple of movies and?
Couple.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
I was in
is there any
Newton Boys.
future in that? Do you feel like you're ever going to do something like that again? I know the West Texas Investor Club. That you told me the story that really that it had gone through a couple of hands, like it went to A&E. But is that something that you feel like you might do in the future?
No, I don't want to do any. Just compared to like a sitcom, you don't want to do those. If you do those TV deals, the more, because originally that we were only supposed to film in Midland in this barn because I didn't want to be away from my family. I mean, I'm in a unique position. I mean, I still got kids and I'm still crazy about my wife. I mean, I don't like to be away from them. So it's like, but so then we ended up going to Alpine, and I wasn't that happy about that. But if we the more successful you are, the more you're going to be gone. So if you're hoping this shows this giant success, well, now they're going to make you make 30 episodes.
Yeah.
You see, and it's and then maybe 40 episodes. So you're going to be doing more and more and more and more. And I realized when CNBC threatened A&E saying you're going to have to do something with that format, it's too close to what it was on when we had it. Yeah. Well, they agreed. NBC said, "Okay, man, we'll back off. Y'all go ahead and show all your shows or whatever." Well, I remember the girl at A&E said, "Well, I don't know if we're going to redo this. If we're going to re-up this Rooster, it's a little controversial. It's not, it's doing okay, but it's not taking off like, And I said, "Man, you ain't hurting my feelings." I said, "I can just see where this is going. If it's that's about the time Duck Dynasty guys quit." And I talked to them, and they said, "Man, we're tired of it." And I could see it. So I can see how it was.
It wears down for sure.
Now, movie parts.
The
movie parts. There, I don't mind doing those because you're in and out.
Yeah.
But TV that's going to one shot one maybe just something that I know how long it's going to last or something a mini series or something. But I mean to do these shows. If the more successful they are, the more you're going to be gone.
Right. What I mean, there was the two movies. Is it two movies that you were in?
Well, I was in the Newton Boys in 1998.
Yeah,
I was a driller with my brother. I was in it for a little bit. I don't have any none of my parts are all that big. And then I don't know. I was in can't even remember the name of that one about somebody. It came out. Izzy the sign somebody. I did that little old movie a guy did over there in California, and then Iron Orchard was done here. Truck driver in that. I'm a male nurse in that other one, and then something to fire to duty or whatever it is. That was some deal some Wounded Warriors did, and then the last one was 12 Mighty Orphan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably my biggest part. I had to work harder on that. I didn't get to be some drunk truck driver or drunk sheriff, or I had to be I had like a part that they said I needed. He said, "Man, tie the direction. Man, you really gotta." I was going to be the sheriff, but what's his name? The comedian White, Ron White. Well, Ron's schedule got messed up, mine didn't. So he said, "All right, Ron, you're gonna take the sheriff. Bruce, you're gonna take the reporter," and it fit our schedules better. And I'm like, man, I could have done that sheriff without, standing on my head. And he goes, "Well, you ain't gonna be doing it. This ain't gonna be that easy. So you're gonna have to really be." I said, "I need you to really make this guy." So they said I did okay. I mean, Robert Duvall said I did good, but he likes me a lot. He's pretty critical.
That's funny. Well, I want to thank you publicly and whatever, I've told you thank you before, but I appreciate you deciding to be on our board, which if you guys are listening, we started a not-for-profit and it's called Even One Less. And, I mainly because of my aunt's relationship with y'all going to church together, but, it means the world to me that you decided to participate. And, and because I look at it like somebody, like if you compare my time and your time, I mean, I feel like that I'm nowhere near the busyness and people demanding time from me. And my kids are, older than your kids. And, but I still see that I have a big demand on my time, and I know that you do too. And I appreciate you, being willing to be on the board and participate. And, even doing something like this, it means a lot to me. And I know it means a lot to my aunt. My aunt, I think she's one of the greatest women that I've ever been around.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And I think it speaks to like the church that we're talking about when we were talking about Robert, the old pastor, is that, my aunt's kind of that same deal. She's very down to earth, and she's been the same since as long as I can remember. I always jokingly tell the story because, I was kind of going through young troubles and trying to figure out what I was doing in life. And I went to go live with my aunt in Midland whenever I was in my 20s. And about 6 months to a year into that deal, she kicked me out because I couldn't act right. So, but but she's still, she's probably been that person that's just been there, throughout my whole life as a staple, as somebody very, that obviously cares and makes, and she, has a lot of confidence in me, and that always makes a difference. But I want to thank you very much for your participation, and it means the world to me for sure.
Well, thank you. Oh, well, we'll see if we all do any good. I
Yeah,
appreciate y'all doing it.
I
I
think
mean, when my wife actually said, "Oh, my wife, my wife talked me into it, really. You need to do that."
that's good.
So, I said, of course, I'm like, I mean, it's the people. It's got something to do with the people. I mean, this is kind of y'all are kind of my people. I mean, there's a reason that I'm over here on the south side.
Yeah.
I mean, I lived on the north side. I was on Green Tree, whatever. I mean, I've been there, and I guess I'm kind of partial to, just. I mean, I know I got my house. I got this big old house that sticks out, but it wasn't that way before. My wife fixed it up, but I mean, it's just, but it's still. I mean, I'm kind of, these are the people that I like to.
Well, it's funny because people don't know Midland. What you're talking about is that, in fact, whenever I took my wife there, she was like, "Oh my God," really thinking there's no nice houses or there's no, and I told my aunt this, where my aunt lives. She lives on the south side of Midland, and
Yeah.
I mean, you would think, and it's changed. Like that's how Midland is. It's like you buy, let's say you buy 5 acres or an acre, and you put a house there, a trailer house, anything. Well, then next thing you know, throughout the years, people have moved in right next to you, right around you, and I'm blown away. Like it's called Oilfield Hotel or whatever it's called, something hotel, right there on I-20 as you're coming in.
Armadillo. You
Yeah,
talk about on the way to Odessa?
no, I'm talking about if you're coming from the east, from like, Big Springs, and you're on I-20, and you look over there to the north side of I-20, and they look like FEMA trailers. And it's one trailer after another. And it says something like, it doesn't say Oilfield Hotel, but it says something like that. And I'm just blown away. But you really, you would think that you're in a third world country in parts of Midland.
Yeah.
And, like you're in Mexico or something, and you would think nobody has a pot to piss in, but it's just, and then you go, really, if you never go to the north side of Midland and you see those nicer houses, all that stuff, you wouldn't know that it's just such a diversity in,
Oh, yeah.
And I guess, I don't know if it's still true. You probably could answer this, but I remember I've told many people in the past, whenever I was younger, I was like, yeah, the world's most millionaires in the United States live in Midland, Texas. And, I think at one time that was true. Maybe it's still true. And yet you have this very poor population there too, working and doing whatever. And so it creates this huge diversity. Most people, if you've never been to West Texas, period, you don't understand that, because really a lot of Texas doesn't look like that area. It's a different place. It's a different, completely different if you've never been to Midland, Texas.
I think there's so many transit people that just move in. Live. I mean, Midland doesn't, and Odessa don't have many people they got, because everybody's got a cell phone. They're all living in these RVs all over the place, and they are doing. But I really think that that's the way that they're saving. They're saving their money or doing whatever. I really think people are prospering. I mean, they're not. I mean, people that got a bunch or go build a house or do whatever. I mean, I never was. When I went broke, I never wanted to get in debt again, and that's the reason I would either take on partners or do whatever. I mean, I got a bank line finally, because when you go chapter 7, that bank gonna mess with you for a while anyway. Yeah. But I always tried to stay. I never put myself in a position where the bank called me up and said, "Hey, I need that money right now," that I couldn't give it to them. You know, I didn't want to be pushed around, you know, so it took me out. So it was a pretty slow growth because I would take on partners, whether we both put up the money or something, because I didn't want to get in too deep with the bank or any financial institution, because you never knew when they're going to something. They get spooked, and I want to, oh, you got to give me my money. I'm like, well, I can't, you know, it's all in this product. Well, you need to liquidate it and give me mine, you know. So I didn't ever want them to. I thought I really felt like I was smarter than they were, and I kind of think I still kind of think I am, but I think today a lot of people that have moved here especially on our side of town, are actually making money and they're socking it back. You know, they just choose not to go blow it on extravagant stuff.
I think that's changed from like in my observation from like the 80s when there was a big old bust, you know, you could really see it in Midland. But I think that's changed, you know, because and I see that here, you know, because Oklahoma, like it seemed like they pretty much like the oil field went dead here probably like a year or two ago. And you see all these companies just going out of business, but yet you see these ones that just continue to hang on.
Yeah.
They are still here, still working. And I think that, you know, in some ways it feels like, okay, maybe we've learned that the oil field, just like everything else, has ups and downs. And I'm blown away. Like they have them, like, you know, where the Thunder is like professional NBA basketball in Oklahoma. You know, that arena down there where they play in Oklahoma City, you know, is called the Chesapeake Arena, basically out for an oil and gas company. And yet they go belly under, but you're always amazed by it's like, okay, we spent millions of dollars on this building down here, and then we go bankrupt, you know?
Yeah.
And I know that it's like that maybe for tax purposes or whatever, but I still feel like it's irresponsible. You know what
I don't get it either, man. I never
think it's
figured that.
irresponsible. It's like, you know, you hear people, I've heard people, especially new in business, it's like, oh my God, I'm going to have to pay $20,000 in taxes to the IRS. And I'm like, but you should have made a ton of money if you had to pay 20,000. You know? And sometimes I just feel like that we're doing business for taxes. We're doing business for maybe investors. I don't know, but it's like, man, it seems very irresponsible. And I feel like we kind of learned from that maybe in the oil field, you know, compared to like the 80s or something. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, you know, you still got it, but you know, I know there's some guys that I'm amazed at how much they'll you know, give in politics and things, you know. I mean, I'm amazed at how much money they'll spend on a candidate or something, you know. I'm like, you know, I mean, I used to had a guy and I chased that a little bit. I don't hardly give him a penny. You know, I'm like, I ain't seen him. I ain't many of them I really trusted. Yeah. You know, I've been around a bunch of them too, but I won't go to more. I don't want.
Well, Rooster, thank you so much, brother. I
appreciate
you spend the time, and I hope you have a great day. And
you too.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
All right, see you later. All right, bye.